All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning still. Still, Mangel here with Nebraska Extension, and I'm in the field. And are we live, Talon?
Yes, we are now live.
Excellent. All right. Well, this is the Scout Nebraska Friday live stream. As we wait for people to join, Talon, do you want to give us an update on everything Scout Nebraska? What's going on?
Yeah, definitely. So our Scout Nebraska programs, hopefully you've seen, has become quite a bit more active here in the last month or so. So what we're doing here today is our weekly live stream. We do these Fridays at 11. Hopefully for those that are on or will be watching this can tell by kind of what we've been doing recently. We've been providing in-field updates virtually to you and bring those to you every Friday at 11. A couple other programs and things that we do. We are providing Scout Nebraska bounties. So if you see one of those bounties, it's a call for a pest to be reported on, either by agronomists, by farmers, any of those that you can make a short video identifying a pest in a specific county or field. And then if you post that using hashtag Scout Nebraska on either Facebook or X, you get put into a raffle to potentially win $100 and a Scout Nebraska hat. And so one of the bounties is white mold of soybean, and then the other one is tar spot of corn. And so those are the two active bounties. We will hopefully be releasing a third bounty here in about a week or so, and we will be doing raffles for those as we get responses and participants to report on those diseases. Other than that, next week we have a very big event on the 12th. So Wednesday next week, we have our Scout Nebraska virtual tour day where Nebraska Extension educators and specialists will be bringing the field to you from across the state. So I think right now we've got about 15 counties covered in Nebraska, and I think we've got probably 5 or 6 crops that we've got educators reporting on. That includes corn, soybean, some forages like alfalfa, Sudan grass. I believe we have some sorghum in there as well as maybe even some dry edible beans as well. And so just keep a lookout for that. That will be on August 12th from 9 to noon. And you can come and go as you please. You don't have to stay for the whole time. You can hopefully find our schedule that we'll be posting on Monday or later next week. Come in, join for parts that you think are most valuable to you. Maybe stick around for something that might be new and interesting. And then otherwise, yeah, feel free to keep following along with our posts on X and Facebook. We use that hashtag Scout Nebraska to show off different pests and what's popping up across the state, um, as well as these live streams. And so Dylan here is going to talk a little bit about soybeans. And Dylan, you're up at the Haskell Ag Lab, correct?
County. So it's not too far that way to South Dakota. And August is an exciting time for disease. It's really when it picks up. I guess it's not an exciting time. It's a frustrating time for disease because growers have beans that look good all year, and then August comes and they just start to fall apart. So you talked about our bounties. We have the two of them that are open right now. We haven't had entries in that first one. And the reason why is because we kind of jumped the gun a little bit, having white mold be the first one. It's developed slow, but what I want to tell everyone is white mold is showing up in Nebraska now. I've had multiple calls this week talking about fields where they're seeing white mold. This here from Haskell is an early infection. It's still only on part of the plant. This plant is still alive. White mold's going to kill a plant, especially if it's on this main stem. Might have some branches survive as part of this, but as low as this is, this disease, this pathogen infected right here at this node, and it's going to spread up and down. Once it gets down here, it's going to wipe out any branches on this. Now, how long ago do you think we had a flower at this node? That's the lowest node on the plant. So basically flowering is when that was infected, and it needs to infect through a flower. So that infection on this field would have happened when this field just started flowering. That would have been around 4th of July, maybe a little after 4th of July. And that's the deceptive thing about this disease is we can have fields that look fine for all of July, despite being infected. And it only shows up in August when we start to get more stress on it. We start to get more humid UV warnings, just like this morning. That's going to spread, and that's what's going to kill those plants. But it's futile to rush out and apply any product right now. It's not going to suppress that. These plants are already infected. It's inside. Now, we all know how hard it is to kill something with fungicide on the surface of a plant. Well, it's much, much harder to kill it when it's inside the core of that plant. We just can't get to it. Same thing with gall midge, right? The insect, it's inside the plants, and we can't get a chemical into there. It's going to be effective to control. So that's why, if I show you closer, sorry about all the wind up here today. I wish I could stop it. If I show you closer, you can see these little black growths on that stem. That's called a sclerotia. That's the survival structure of this white mold, and that's what's going to start the infection here next year, if those are present. I'd like to get rid of them, but we can't. They're basically little rocks. They're hard, they're melanized, they're UV resistant, they're weather resistant. They're just going to stay there. If you bury them, they're going to get taken out of service, but if you dig them back up in 5 years, they're going to go right back into it. So tillage doesn't really work to stave this off. You just got to slowly control this and hopefully get fewer and fewer of these in your field with every passing year. So that's white mold. It's happening in the state, especially up in the northeast part, but I've also heard about it in irrigated fields in central, the central irrigated area by Seward, Gresham, Utica, all over that area. I've heard of it. Irrigation's going to drive it. Water is what drives this. Water, though, in this case, drove this around the 4th of July. So that's white mold. There's another thing going on right now, too, though, and that's frog eye leaf spot. Talon, are you guys hearing me okay?
Yep, we are hearing you good.
Good. Well, I guess before I jump to frog eye, are there any comments or questions in the chat on YouTube? Well, if they pop up, feel free to cut in. So frog eye leaf spot is a foliar pathogen. Let me fight the wind here and hold this up for you. You see the spots on that leaf? Let's test the limits of this camera. There's spots on that leaf. That's the front side. Here's the back side. Now, those spots normally have chlorophyll and they're normally doing photosynthesis. But when you get in here with the pathogen gets in here and starts to eat and kill all that, you just end up with a dead spot on your leaf. Now, the rest of this leaf is still working hard. But the more area you lose to this, less photosynthesis, and the more that shades out other potentially healthier lower leaves. So it's just taking all that area out of service, and it's going to contribute to yield loss. Now, how much yield loss depends on how much leaf area you're losing to frog eye leaf spot. Now, we have a lot of foliar pathogens in corn doing damage, right? In soybean, we have fewer things on the leaves up here in Nebraska. A lot of them hang down low, like the septoria brown spot. It'll hang out on wet lower leaves, but it takes a lot of moisture for them to climb up. Frog eye, though, if it moves in at the right time and gets the right moisture, it'll make those spots. And it's polycyclic, meaning it just keeps. I might have cut out there for a second. Oh, thanks, Talon, for sharing that. Yeah, awesome. That's a perfect picture. It just keeps making more spores, and it's going to keep spreading around those fields. But all of that depends on the weather, which is why I can't give you a threshold. I can say you got to look at the forecast, because that picture Talon's showing right there, it's not as bad as it looks. I always tend to overestimate the severity of these things when we see them. But if we get really wet conditions, like a lot of Nebraska's had the last 3 days, but if that continues, we'll continue to have that spread and we can lose more and more area to that. If you've got a strong history of this and you want to get out there and treat for it, you can. The other challenge with this one is a lot of those thrown in or generic products might be a group 11 strobilurin product only. This frog eye leaf spot pathogen, everywhere we've looked in Nebraska, has evolved to overcome those. So those products are no longer effective. So you need to use a mixed mode of action product, something that's going to have multiple avenues of targeting this pathogen if you want to kill that from that field. And you're not going to kill it. You're going to prevent the new spores from spreading and sort of arrest its growth in place. What am I missing, Talon?
No, that was good. That was good. One of the questions actually on this X post that you had made earlier about frog eye leaf spot and the resistance management, one of the questions was, do triazoles still work well on frog eye?
Triazoles are going to be, we really only use uh, 3 modes of action, or we use broadly 3 modes of actions when it comes to fungi management in soybean. They're the groups 3s, this is group 7s, and the group 11s. So the 3s and the 7s, which include the triazoles, are still effective against this. So a lot of products do contain multiple modes these days. Some products, many include 3 modes of action, all 3 of those. So to maintain their effectiveness as long as possible into the future, use those together. That's going to prevent those pathogens from evolving to overcome those. Now, the group 11s or the strobilurins were the easiest to overcome. So the other 2 are going to be slightly more durable, or more durable for sure. But if we continue to use this, they're going to evolve. There's a lot of these out there. It only takes one to evolve to overcome it. And that one's going to be potentially dominant. So need to make sure we're using those appropriately. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, and so Dylan, where does that frog eye leaf spot, where does that overwinter at? Is that something like crop rotation or something like that's going to keep held back or
that can help for sure. So it's going to overwinter on residue. So this leaf, where does it go at the end of the season? Well, it starts to degrade. It falls to the ground. It's chopped up and mowed down. Those spores, though, are going to just kind of hang out on that organic matter on top of the soil. This leaf could blow to another field and start, that might be in soybeans next year and spread it, or it could hang out in the soil in this field for the next soybean season if it's pretty quick. Generally, a rotation is going to really hold this back. And that might be one thing helping us in this part of the state where we've got a lot of growers on a corn soybean rotation. That's going to disadvantage frog eye leaf spot. But if you're on a straight bean just beans, you're going to have this build up a lot quicker. So that's another reason why it's really important to continue those rotations.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds good. What do you think are maybe some other potential downsides with our current conditions with soybeans? Maybe not specific to diseases. What do you think would be really beneficial for growers here in the next couple weeks to keep an eye out for?
Well, you got to watch how this develops. You can see stressed areas. Go investigate what's stressing those areas if you see them. Especially if they're not straight lines, if there's oblong patterns, if they're in your low-lying areas or dry spots, figure out what's getting in there. In areas we had a wet spring here, which could have really infected some of these root systems with soil-borne fungi, and some of them tend to wait before they really stress the plant and cause problems. Now that's a twofold problem. One, because it's preventing that plant from dying initially, which would allow the others around it to compensate. But if it survives and then kills a plant this big or prevents it from setting a good pod fill, you're not allowing the others around it to compensate even. So we could see some of that in the form of sudden death syndrome. We're already seeing it in areas with a wet spring. Last year, the southeast corner of the state, it was pretty bad down there. We can see it again in even more of the state. So continue to watch for that. The reason that's important is not because you could go do something about it right now, but that's going to stay in that soil. So you need to take good notes on where that is so you can target that with a seed treatment or consider your planting time and variety when you go back into those fields in the future.
And so with planting timing, would you recommend planting later if you have
Yeah.
a history of severe SDS?
Well, the push has been to move soybean planting earlier. That's advantageous because you're going to capture more that season and you're going to capture more yield. But we're generally doing it into poorer conditions in many cases. So I wouldn't generally recommend pushing it back because going earlier makes a big difference. But what I would say is avoid bad planting conditions. Don't push it so early that you're planting into something bad. If you have wet soils, plant those later in your planting cycle. But take advantage of early and just plan for what you have you're going to deal with in those seasons. So take good notes this year.
Yeah, and so one of the things is soybean cyst nematode is kind of a hidden pathogen, kind of a sneaky lurker that kind of just steals yield without really showing any symptoms. Where what's kind of that? You want to talk a little bit about the distribution and kind of where some of that would be found too?
Yeah, soybean cyst nematode is definitely a sneaky lurker that's been lurking its way across the state since 1986. In Richardson County, where it was found first, and then all up along that eastern side of the state, along the Missouri River. It was at low levels. It's continued to move west, and we have it in 95+% of the soybean producing counties. But in many of those counties, it's still at low levels in fields, or it's in only a small fraction of the fields. So it has a lot of area that it can expand to still. So always be considerate when you're moving soil around or when you're moving equipment. Um, it's a parasite that's going to sap energy from these plants. It's going to take away from your yield, but it's going to do so very quietly, and we can lose significant yield with no noticeable above ground symptoms. Now, it can certainly get bad enough that you're going to have noticeable symptoms, but the reason this is the number one biologic pest of soybean is because it's in many, many acres. It's not going to leave those acres once it's there, and it's going to take that 3, 5, 7+% without people knowing it. So they're not thinking about it. They're not actively managing for it. And as this moves west in Nebraska, it's getting into some fields with a higher pH potentially, and definitely fields with more sand. It does better in both of those situations. That's where we see yield loss really crank up. That's where we start to see those noticeable symptoms. But if you're not sure if you have it or not, the Nebraska Soybean Board funds free testing for any Nebraska growers or Nebraska soils. So bring soil into the UNL Plant Pest Diagnostic Clinic or call me if you have more questions about that program. It's completely free, confidential. We'll send soil sample results out to growers that bring those samples in. And then before I forget, one other thing I want to mention, being on the eastern half of the state and in the northeastern part specifically, there's something new out there called red crown rot of soybean. It's been around in the United States since the 70s. It was a problem on peanuts in the South until one day it wasn't. And then it started becoming a problem on soybean in the South, but not a big deal. And then for some reason, a couple of years ago, it jumped up and we started to see it in Kentucky, in the I-states, not Iowa yet though. And it really was found everywhere. So soybean red crown rot is that pathogen. And I was only moderately concerned when we were seeing it in Indiana and Illinois. It started to creep into Missouri, so I was looking around that southeast corner of the state, thinking we'd see it down there first, monitoring for that. But last fall, it was found in the southwest corner of Minnesota, so about 75 miles, about 85 miles from where I'm at now, not too far away. So suddenly it's right on our doorstep. So we could have issues from that. And we haven't been looking as hard in this corner of the state as we have. So we're gonna spend a lot of our time this fall in the northeast corner of the state looking for red crown rot, identifying it if it's here. And we want to start research on that as soon as possible. We've seen just more and more things flood into this state. Now, we talked about sudden death syndrome. A lot of growers know about that. There was a time not too long ago where sudden death syndrome was not in this state, and now it's a major player in the yield loss we have across the state. Hopefully red crown rot doesn't turn into another one of those, but it's shown that it can cause significant yield loss and spread pretty quickly across fields in the I-states. So if you think you have red crown rot, on the crown of the plant, red growths, not just red staining, but actual physical red spherical growths, they're quite small. But if you think you see anything like that, send me a picture or call me or call the UNL Plant Pest Diagnostic Clinic or call us at Scout Nebraska. Either way, we'd be happy to get out there, look at that, help diagnose that, and see if that's the issue so we can start to manage that as soon as possible and limit spread here in the state.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's good because I think you might have mentioned it, but it was recently found in Minnesota, only like 70 miles from the state line and kind of northeast corner of the state.
Yeah, that's close by.
Yeah. No,
We've had some.
it doesn't take long for those things to move, and it's really just important for everybody to know that it's not just soil things moving around in the soil. I mean, a lot of that is human movement. I mean, going from field to field, going from um, taking a soil probe from one field, taking it to the next one, not cleaning it off. Those kinds of things can all transfer soil pathogens. That includes things like SDS and red crown rot, obviously. Even things like white mold. If you get one of those black kind of structures and you pick that up and you carry it to the next soybean field, that's a pretty good chance to get infection in a new place that may limit yield in that area now.
Yeah, one easy takeaway from this is if you have white mold, harvest that field last. Harvest that area of the field last, because when you run that combine through there, some of those are going inside of that combine and they're not going to come all out right away. Some are going to ride around and blow out the back into your field the rest of your harvest. So harvest that last, clean out the combine when you're done for the year, and keep from spreading that. Another thing with the red crown rot is some of the fields where it's been found, it's not found in field entrances, which kind of is a little bit of evidence that maybe it's not humans doing this. Some of those fields is showing up right in the middle, out far away from the road. So it could be animal movement. It could be birds moving this around. It could have, it could potentially be blowing on red. Who knows? We don't know, frankly. It's relatively new to soybean, and we're learning as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and I guess I was just thinking about this. One potential benefit maybe of no-till systems is that with tillage systems, you're dragging dirt across your field. Would you say that that's a pretty easy way to spread these soil-borne diseases across the whole field?
Yeah, especially once you have it. So once you have it in one area, you can really drag that spot out. And we see that with a lot of pathosystems. Working an infected area, if we've just got a pocket working, it's just going to make it longer.
All right. Yeah, good deal. Um, well, I guess I can't say. Do you have anything else you want to share here for our time on the
Yes.
stream?
I just want to tell everyone, come out next Wednesday for our Scout Nebraska live scouting event across the state. We're going to be doing 10-minute segments with different educators in different fields all over the state on different crops, all kinds of stuff. Come out, join the chat, watch the live stream, ask questions, put us on the spot if you want to. We'd be happy for the conversation. So that's going to be on this YouTube channel next Wednesday at 9 a.m. live.
Yep, it'll be a stream just like this. I think we'll hopefully have some kind of engagement things. I think we'll have a bit of a competition probably between us educators and specialists to see who's the best scouter, I'm sure, throughout the day. And maybe we'll find something new in counties that are close to you as growers. So feel free to join in and call out a disease or pest or insect, anything really. We can sure try to get eyes on it for you if it's something new or interesting that you may want to see. Um, we do have quite a few crops on the list. I believe we're going to be covering everything from our normal corn, soybean row cropping systems to even some forages like alfalfa, Sudan grass, and I think we got some sorghum and some black-eyed peas actually on the list now. So there'll be some interesting kind of fun crops as well. If those are something that interests you, we can definitely talk about management and how to get into some of those systems as well. So yeah, I really recommend people start showing up and join us for our tour day, virtual tour day on August 12th from 9 to